All right, sorry, I'm back. Somehow it dropped my connection. So I'm back for our meltability part 2. So sorry about that, folks. At any rate, we're melting cheese here, and we can see that our Munster cheese is melting very nicely. And we can see over here that our French Broussais not melting at all, right? It's getting warm, and it will eventually brown a little bit. And then we can see over here our Montaggio is starting to melt, but it certainly isn't liquefying like our lovely Munster over here, right? So this kind of really demonstrates for you what we were just talking about. I'm going to turn the temperature down just a bit, just so I don't turn this into a complete pool of moisture. But I can definitely, oh, it looks so good. Like I really want to just pick this up and eat it right now because it looks so delicious. But you can see it, all things being created equal, same pot, same amount of time, my little direct acidification cheese just isn't doing a thing, except it's softening, but it's just not going to melt. Whereas our high moisture cheese melted really well, and our very low moisture aged cheese is melting, but not in the same way. It's not really going to liquefy, which is one reason this low moisture cheese is so great for making that frico that I showed last week, because it's just going to brown and crisp. This one's just going to turn to liquid. It's not going to brown and crisp at all. All right, so kind of a fun little demonstration. And I would say, you know, if you've got some cheese at home and you want to just try this for yourself, maybe think about what I've just been talking about, the meltability of cheese, and try that little demonstration at home, thinking to yourself, like, knowing what I now know, which one do I think will melt fastest, and how will it change? Now, the last thing I just want to talk about before I sign off is, because we're coming into cold winter season and things like fondue and mac and cheese sound so comforting and delicious, I want to talk a little bit about some of the do's and don'ts for melting your cheese into a sauce or something that you want to be very smooth. We already know if you're making pizza, you want a high-fat mozzarella to really get that good stringiness. And you want a good aged mozzarella, a cultured mozzarella. Not aged, it's still a fresh cheese, but a good cultured mozzarella will melt really well. Remember that a quick mozzarella, like the 30-minute mozzarella, uses citric acid, and it doesn't exactly melt the same way a cultured mozzarella will. But if you're wanting to make a sauce, like for mac and cheese or make a fondue, here are some things to keep in mind. First thing is, bring your cheese to room temperature. Remember, at about 90 degrees, those fat molecules start to come up to the surface and get more soft and start to liquefy. So you get a head start by bringing your cheese to room temperature first. Secondly, if you do have a more aged cheese, or even for any of your cheeses that you're going to try to melt, grating it will make it melt faster, because you're going to have much smaller pieces of cheese to start melting at a time. Third, you want to use a really low heat. If you use a high heat, sometimes what you'll do is you'll actually kind of sear those proteins molecules all back together, and they'll clump up and they won't melt as well. So use a low heat when you start melting your cheese for a sauce or for fondue. Then you can also add an acid, and that's really going to help to get your cheese to be more smooth. And what do I mean by that? Wine or lemon juice. Add some kind of an acid to your cheese as you're melting it. And then, of course, most sauces do add some kind of a starch. You could add cornstarch or flour, and that also is going to help make your cheese much smoother. All right, now what should you not do? Don't stir too vigorously. If you stir too vigorously, again, you're going to get some clumping. And then don't cool it before you serve it, because what happens, it starts to firm back up again. So once you've got it nice and melted, go ahead and use it right then. If you're making mac and cheese, you're going to blend it with your macaroni while it's still warm. Don't cool it back down. Obviously, your fondue, your fondue pot has heat to keep it warm, because once it cools back down, it's going to solidify again. And then also, for your best melting cheeses for sauces, don't use a stringy type of cheese. Remember, we talked about mozzarella. A fresh cheese gets kind of stringy when it melts. So do some of the Swiss cheeses. So something like a cheddar or one of those cheeses might help. So somebody's asking here, does the acid help keep it from getting grainy? Yeah, and so does the cornstarch in there, both of those things. And then also keeping it in that lower heat. So it's both of those things. You don't want to have too high of heat. You don't want the clumps and you don't want it to be grainy. And so heating it slowly, adding a little bit of that acid to it in the form of wine or lemon juice, and adding a little bit of that flour or cornstarch. All of those things are going to help keep it really smooth, which would be the opposite of grainy. Now, remember, if you start stirring too vigorously or you heat too high, you're going to undo what you just did, and all those proteins are going to glob back together. All right, so hopefully that helps you a little bit. Just understand why do some cheeses melt and some don't, and how to pick the best cheeses for what it is you're trying to achieve. All right, and if any of those cheeses just sound like, well, I want to learn how to make those, remember, that's really what I do. And right now, because it's Black Friday through Monday, we are having a special, and that is that you can get gift cards for my classes, buy 2, get 1 free. And then this is a special just for those of you watching and those of you who get my newsletter. I do not have this published anywhere else. And that is right now I'm doing buy 1, get 1 free on classes as well. So if you sign up for 1 virtual class, you can sign up for a second one and get it free. Or if you want to sign up for an on-demand class, they're the same thing, it's just the on-demand ones are pre-recorded live classes, and you can watch them right away. So all of those are buy 1, get 1 free. You're going to use the coupon code BOGO, B-O-G-O. I don't have that published anywhere, I'm just telling you. All right, so that's what we have going on. All the cheeses that you just saw demonstrated are in a class except for the Munster. That is coming, probably in January. But the French Broussais was in my class called 3 Simple Cheeses, and the Montaggio is coming up next weekend, December 5th. So hopefully you will support my little small business. Tomorrow is Small Business Saturday, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about cheeses you might buy, but why not make your own cheese too? All right, folks, that's all I have for today. Sorry about the little technical glitch in the middle there. But come back and see me next Friday, or come to a class. Tomorrow, my assistant Kelly is teaching naked goat cheese, sort of like manchego-ish, but it's made with goat milk, and that is tomorrow's class. All right, so thank you so much for coming. Have a great weekend, and stay safe and stay sane. All right, bye-bye, everybody.